The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count presented by BetMGM. It is a Wednesday, November 12th, 2025, last one on the face of the planet. The Hard Count, the college football show for fans who just got their YouTube TV credit and threw up in their mouth. Disgusting. Another conversation for another time. Hey, we just got the college football playoff rankings edition number 2. We'll react to that. We got some what's being missed and some of the biggest games of the week. And then also, man, I think in this industry, we overthink format sometimes. I got some takes for y'all. I want to talk about it with y'all and get your opinions on my opinions. So make sure you're subscribed. If you haven't already subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel, look, National Signing Day around the corner. We got college football playoff action around the corner. We got to finish this season strong. We want you with us. The best way to be with us is by being subscribed. So the rankings came out last night. And if y'all know what Cato and I are about here on this show, man, Cato, I think, actually lives in the dojo. I'm pretty sure he's got a cot somewhere in the building. He just is, like, grinding the tape all the time, producing the show all the time. So we reacted to those rankings when they came out last night. If you didn't watch that video already on the channel, no worries. We're going to plug that for you right now. So here's our reaction to rankings number 2 from the College Football Playoff Committee as soon as we got them. Check it out. Okay, so where I want to start with these rankings is number 18. Because that's where the 10-2 logjam kind of gets interesting. Michigan's at 18, USC's at 17, Georgia Tech at 16, Miami hanging out at 15. Interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Vandy at 14, Utah at 13, BYU at 12. Now, Michigan at 18 is really interesting because if Michigan wins out, one, they have a chance to get some help and find themselves in that Big Ten title game. That's the first part of this. But let's just say Michigan doesn't get some help and gets to the Big Ten title game. Let's just say that things break a certain way where, I don't know, Michigan's there where they beat Ohio State. They're 10-2. And it's like, hang on a second. Michigan at 10-2 with a win over Ohio State, should they find themselves in that same position again? I don't know how you would leave them out. Now, I say that. Then I look at USC at 17. And if USC wins out, that means they'll have a win over a ranked Iowa team, who is 21 in tonight's rankings, a win over Oregon, who is top 10 yet again in tonight's rankings, and they also hold the head-to-head over Michigan. So you see where I'm going with this thing. I don't know how Michigan in any way, shape, or form would get left out of the college football playoff at 10-2 with the win over the number 1 ranked team in America, but USC holding that head-to-head, do they just get swept up in that as well with a couple of ranked wins on the way? That to me is really, really interesting. Georgia Tech at 16. Miami at 15, I kind of grouped them together in some respects. The ACC is going to be a one-bid league, or so we think. Miami being at 15, again, remember, one spot will be designated more than likely to the ACC. Now, it's not officially the verbiage, but 5 highest-ranked conference champions. One of those conference champions, we are assuming, as it stands right now, is going to be from the ACC. So the leader in the clubhouse right now, from a rankings perspective in the ACC, the placeholder is Miami. Now, Miami does not control their own destiny in the ACC title race. So we keep saying the ACC is going to be a one-bid league, but Miami kind of has this gift of Notre Dame's playing Pitt. So if Pitt beats Notre Dame, that's a horrible whistle. You hear what I'm saying. Notre Dame drops out of the college football playoff at 9-3. They're not getting in. And then Pitt, who was ranked in the top 25 tonight, they get boosted up. Guess what? Miami plays Pitt in a couple of weeks here. If Miami beats Pitt handily and Pitt has a Notre Dame win to their name, how much does that boost Miami's at-large prospects? It would shock me if Miami found their way into the dance at 10-2, but I'm just saying there is a path there. Again, with the 10-2 stuff, Vandy at 14, if they go 10-2, they probably need a Texas to lose or an Oklahoma to lose. BYU at 12. Now, if BYU gets into the Big 12 title game and they find their way into the Big 12 title game with only one loss, my gut, again, just purely going off field here, my gut is BYU would find their way into the college football playoff, whether it's as a conference champ or as an at-large bid. That's just kind of how I'm feeling about this as it stands right now. So the 18 through 12 range is curious, but we get into the actual playoff bracket right now, and the team seeded 12th, ranked 24th, is USF. This doesn't need a whole lot of explaining. USF is in this position where they have a win to their name over Florida, and just food for thought now, the way the bracket stands right now, it's going to change obviously, but the way it stands right now, USF would play number 5 Georgia in that first round. Now, USF only beat Florida by 2 less points than Georgia did. So if you're going to go off common opponent, I think the Dogs win that game, but I'm just saying keep an eye on that matchup. That'd be a lot of fun. But USF, currently the G5 rep. I wonder where JMU ends up when this whole thing is said and done. No other analysis, just keep an eye on JMU. The number 11 ranked team was Oklahoma. However, again, the ACC will have a representative as it stands right now. That's Miami. At number 10, you got Texas. Now, I think both Texas and Oklahoma are in an intriguing spot. They are both scaling this wall of the college football playoff. They're looking up. If they win out, you got to feel pretty decent if you go 10-2 in your OU or you're 10-2 in Texas about finding your way into the dance. However, if you lose one game, I think you plummet back down to earth. So it is either get to the top of the mountain at 10-2 or lose a game and you're off the rock. Now, Oklahoma, they will have a massive game this weekend against Alabama at Alabama, which will obviously impact their college football playoff prospects and resume. Same deal with Texas. If you go to Georgia and beat Georgia, you're setting yourself up with a spot to go play A&M the final weekend of the regular season at home. Maybe you got a little bit extra juice, a little momentum, hot at the right time. I don't know. But I'll just say this. Texas, if they go 10-2 and they make the SEC championship game, they will be a lot higher than 10 in those rankings on Selection Sunday. Whether they win the conference or not, a 10-2 Texas would have a pretty difficult resume to argue with as it stands when all the dust settles. Now, at number 9, you got Notre Dame. I understand Notre Dame was kind of a friction point for a lot of people last week because they're like, well, who have they beaten? Well, Notre Dame, what's their best win on their resume? Their best win's USC? Okay, you're going to put them in the top 10? I hear where you're coming from. I'll go back to what I said over the course of this entire last week. I think the committee is saying, hey, Notre Dame, we see you. We see the brand of football you're playing. We trust what you're doing. We have a low level of questions for Notre Dame relative to the teams behind them. Sure, you lost to Miami. Not great. Sure, you lost to A&M. Never good to lose. However, the way you looked in those losses, wasn't like you just got blown out. Never questioned who your quarterback was or questioned your overall holes in your roster, whereas we were having those discussions around Oklahoma and around Texas over the course of the season. So the wins aren't as good, but the committee is watching games. It's a beautiful thing. The committee is watching college football games, and they're seeing Notre Dame doing good things, doing things that good football teams do, and they're in a pretty ideal spot right now as Notre Dame with the chance to play Pitt at Pitt, who's going to be a ranked opponent, and maybe earn some style points. I said last week that I think Notre Dame has got to get some style points the rest of the way to feel good about their chances to make the college football playoff. I'm going to go ahead and stand by that statement this weekend, but seeing them at 9, they got a little bit of cushion between them and that 11 spot. I don't know. Keep an eye on Notre Dame. Not a lot of meat on the bone after they play Pitt with Syracuse and Stanford, unfortunately. But you keep handling business, Notre Dame. You keep passing that eye test rather comfortably, you're going to be in the college football playoff. Now, Oregon at 8. I wasn't sure what the committee would do with Oregon. And again, in those first rankings, I was a little bit taken back that they put him at 9 because the win over Penn State I thought had much more value than the committee assigned to it. And I thought that the loss to Indiana, with how close that game was in the second half, maybe deserved a little bit more attention. But I think Oregon has a real chance to boom in these rankings because they're going to play number 17 USC here before this whole thing wraps up. So you're hoping and praying if you're Oregon that USC keeps winning and maybe, just maybe, Oregon has a chance to jump Ole Miss because Ole Miss plays Florida and Mississippi State, the final 2 games of the regular season for the folks out in Oxford. But I don't see a world where Oregon, outside of somebody ahead of them losing, jumps past Ole Miss at number 7. Right now, Ole Miss at number 7, I'm cool with it. Them being jumped by Texas Tech at number 6, I think this was the right move. Because Texas Tech, if you're not going to jump Ole Miss in a week where you absolutely take belt to cheeks against a top 10 team in BYU, never was a game. Really never was a game. We're going to be honest about this whole thing. If you can't jump Ole Miss in a game like that with a win like that, you were never going to jump them until the conference title game, is how I'm looking at this thing. So I think that was the right move. neither Texas Tech or Ole Miss have too much left in the regular season. I told you what Ole Miss has got. Texas Tech plays UCF in West Virginia, so walk the tightrope there. Ole Miss and Texas Tech, and I think that's how it's going to finish out. Now, the top 5 to me, as I mentioned at the opening here, I think that's pretty locked, y'all. Barring something where one of these teams lose, I don't know how you shake this up. Because if you're going to put A&M ahead of Indiana, you would have done that this week, where A&M boat races Mizzou and Indiana gets a close win over Penn State. Cool, maybe you say, hey, A&M, we like the eye test. We'll go ahead and put you over Indiana this week. But if you're not doing that this week, I don't know what week you're doing it. Maybe you do it if A&M beats Texas handily, and you feel good about that, because at that point, Indiana's boasting a win over Purdue the final week of the regular season. But even if you do that, I don't really care that much, because you're probably both playing in conference title games the next weekend, and that'll decide the seeding in general. So 2 and 3 was the spot I was watching most closely. Obviously, Bama having the head over Georgia has Bama at 4 and Georgia at 5. Indiana at 2, I'm good with it. Ohio State at 1, they've looked like the best team in college football. I am all the way here for them being the number 1 team in America as it stands per these rankings. But my biggest takeaway from this, as I just said, 1 through 5 feels locked to me. Texas Tech moving up to 6 was the right move. We predicted the committee would do this on Monday, so another reason to be subscribed and to be watching this show. The 10-2 logjam, again, is going to be very, very interesting. What do you do with Miami if they're 10-2? Because the committee is saying right now, hey, Miami, you go finish the regular season with a bang, and maybe, just maybe, we're side-eyeing you and saying you could find an at-large spot in the college football playoff. Miami not controlling their own destiny when it comes to the conference, so they're not getting that auto bid. But there's just a lot of moving pieces here. And again, 18 and 17 with Michigan and USC and how they could potentially eat up some spots with what they have the rest of the way is just fascinating. So again, I don't know if 10-2 gets you into the college football playoff this year like it was last year. It was kind of a fast pass of sorts. If you're a Big Ten or an SEC team, you go 10-2, boom, you're in. I don't think it's quite that cut and dry this year. But these rankings, again, pretty consistent. I appreciate the committee watching games. Them moving Texas Tech up, I think, is a testament to that. But we'll keep a pulse on this, man. Really quickly, looking at these potential first-round matchups we have, Oregon and Notre Dame would be phenomenal. A couple of psychopathic head coaches facing off in Autzen. Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning. The promos leading into that game would be awesome. The promos after that game would be absolutely cinematic. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Texas Tech and Miami. If we got that round 1 in Lubbock, everyone talks about NIL this, NIL that for both schools. It would be a really good test of who's handled the NIL era the best, not just from building a roster, but building your culture. Does Miami have the cultural resilience to go into Lubbock and get a win? I'd be here to see that. Ole Miss and Texas. Hey, I don't know if y'all were clocking the news this week, but Lane Kiffin said something to the effect of dynasties in college football are dead. Steve Sarkisian was asked about it, and he's referring to Lane Kiffin, says he says a lot. Well, I think that Lane Kiffin and Sark are actually boys from their time on staff at USC, but get to settle on the field a little bit. I'd be here for that offensive matchup. I'd be all the way about that. And then the teams with the byes with Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, I think that's the right 4 as it stands right now. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. Just the second rankings. I know it's an emotional time for all of us across the college football world. Holiday season right around the corner. Maybe you're watching a Hallmark movie and feeling a little bit in your feelings. That's okay. We're not overreacting. We're reacting, not overreacting. We will get more editions of those rankings. We will respond in accordance with the importance of those rankings. Second rankings, important, not as important as obviously those final rankings we'll get on Selection Sunday. So, a big game that's going to go a long way in determining what those rankings look like on Selection Sunday is what's going on when Texas goes out to Athens, Georgia. All right, I want to talk about what's being missed in this game. We'll start with Texas. The headline take is, hey, Arch looks good. Arch kind of finding his rhythm now. I don't know if it's those Warby Parker contacts he's got, but Arch is looking like he's a different quarterback from what we saw week 1 against Ohio State. Fair, true, maybe being a little bit over-talked about, because what's important for Texas, what's not being talked about nearly enough, is Arch is important, but he's not the whole point of the Texas offense. What's most important for Texas is the support system around Arch Manning. Like Arch Manning in the game he has on Saturday in Athens, it's going to be about whether or not Texas around him woke up in a salty mood. You know what I'm talking about here. If Texas can generate something on the ground, hey, we got a chance now. Texas, they want to put the ball on the perimeter. Guess what? That only matters if you got your receivers in a bad mood with a bad attitude, ready to go block the DBs for Georgia and be able to create some space for your receivers when they get it on the perimeter. That's what this is about. So Arch, yeah, it's important what he does in this game, but what he does in this game, I think, will be very closely linked to the ability for Texas to run the football and what I just said, be able to get something going in the screen game, perimeter pass game, all that and more. Then also, we talk about Texas being in a bad mood. Arch, I'd like to be able to have a little bit of support system on the defensive side in that front seven, man. Like to be able to feel pretty good about getting some stops against Georgia, not being a spot where Arch is watching the majority of that first half because Nate Frazier, Chauncey Bowens, and co. are just chipping away at the clock, moving the ball down the field methodically, if you will. That's where I think it becomes a little more of a conversation of, okay, well, Georgia took over the game because they just took the will from Texas when it came to their run defense. Now, that would surprise me a little bit because Texas over the course of this year has been pretty solid against the run. But Arch is important in this game, but I think the way that Texas stops the run and the way they're able to generate some run game themselves, that to me isn't being talked about nearly enough in this spot. All right? Now, we talk about Georgia. We talk about Georgia in the sense of their ability to run the football and their ability to be the bully, which is extremely important. That's been talked about a lot over the course this week. My angle, though, here when it comes to what's important in this game and what's being missed when it comes to the Dogs, I don't really worry if I'm Texas if Georgia scores and we have to match scores. The nightmare fuel for me, if I'm Steve Sarkisian, is if Georgia's able to push the ball downfield and score in bunches. Because here's the world you would then live in if you're Texas. 13-0 on the road, first-year starting quarterback against that defense, against Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart. Do you really want to chase points in that world? I don't think so. And so as important as the Georgia run game is, and I already spoke to how important it is, I think the area of opportunity for Georgia against the Texas secondary is being wildly missed. I think that narrative is way off base. Don't look now, teams have kind of taken Texas yard a few times. Like Mississippi State, great day at the office downfield. Florida, Dallas Wilson had a career day. And was a true freshman, so I guess every day is a career day for that guy, but had a big day through the air against Texas in the secondary. We talk about Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia, I said so many times, hey, he's great running the football. What are they, though, when they have to push the ball downfield? Diego Pavia went for 3 bills through the air against Texas. So if Georgia can do what those teams did and put Texas on their heels and take them out of a situation where they're able to just run the football and stick to their game plan, you got to press a little bit on the road. I don't love that world when you speak to what Georgia's going to be in this spot. So what's being missed? Yeah, it's about Arch for sure. But I think it's even more so about Arch in the sense that Texas wants to and needs to play complementary football around him on the offensive and defensive side for them to have success in this game. Arch is not going to be the wideout to the mistakes that Texas maybe has in this spot against a good Georgia team. And then for Georgia, what I just said, it's important to run the football, important to be the bully, impose your will, all that is true. But I think it's more important in this spot for Gunnar Stockton to get the wing loose a little bit, all right? Get Oscar Delp down the seam, get Noah Thomas deep, get Zachariah Branch in space. If they can force Texas to chase points, bad news for the visiting team in Athens, all right? So that's what's being missed in Texas at Georgia. Now let's move to the other game that I think is the other game of the week in this spot. No knock on Notre Dame Pitt. That one's going to be awesome too. I'm glad College Game Day is there. Oklahoma going to Alabama. We already broke this game down, but what's being missed in this game? What's being missed on the Oklahoma side, you talk a lot about how good Alabama is, how good Ty Simpson is. It's all very well, true and needs to be mentioned, but I think what's being missed is the fact that John Mateer and his skill set is exactly the kind of skill set and talent profile that has given Alabama fits since Kalen DeBoer got there a year ago. Look at the quarterbacks that have beaten Kalen DeBoer over the course of the regular season, okay? Diego Pavia, Nico Iamaleava, Jackson Arnold, and Thomas Castellanos. What do all 4 of those cats have in common? A little bit of giddy up to them, a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of mobility. All right, now John Mateer, I don't know if he's like Thomas Castellanos level of fast and elusive, but he is, I would say, one of the best ball carriers of that group. The other point I'll make here is the design quarterback run potential that gave Alabama some fits against Oklahoma last time. Very much there with John Mateer. That hand getting more and more healthy. John told us on the show last week, he's starting to feel a little bit more like himself. Also, the ad-lib potential. You've seen him break contain, make some magic in the open field, have the little jump pass stuff he does. Like, there's some real juice there with John Mateer in the off-script stuff as well. Shout out Zach Herbstreit. There's a lot of that there for Oklahoma in this spot. And again, that has been what's given Alabama trouble over the course of Kalen DeBoer's career in Tuscaloosa. To go along with that, I personally would argue Oklahoma with John Mateer as an offense has the best combination of quarterback talent in Mateer paired with depth of playmakers on the perimeter. Mentioned Deion Burks, mentioned Jaron Kanik. There's a lot of guys, I think, for Oklahoma to get the football to downfield, And like Eli Stowers is awesome for Vanderbilt. There's no one past Eli Stowers I'm worried about from Alabama. You can say the same thing for Oklahoma a year ago. You could speak to Nico Iamaleava. I don't think he's the same caliber of quarterback that John Mateer is. So all that's to say, I think this could be the toughest test for the Alabama defense that they've had to face this year. And arguably, you could have a conversation about the toughest test for Alabama over the course of what Kalen DeBoer's had to deal with since getting to Tuscaloosa. Now, I'm not saying pound for pound talent-wise, but what's given Alabama troubles is exactly what John Mateer and this Oklahoma offense is going to present. In addition to that, they're going to be aggressive. I said it in the preview, I'll say it again. We're going to see Ben Arbuckle roll out there with the burn the boats kind of approach here when it comes to the offensive game plan. If we got something in the bag, we're running it. We are not leaving Tuscaloosa with any bullets in the chamber. So that whole recipe for me, I'm very excited to see what John Mateer does on the offensive side of the ball here for Oklahoma, because I think it's going to be something to write home about regardless of the end result. Now, for Alabama, the headline take is they can't run the football, JD. It's not the old Alabama. It's not their old stuff. All right, they are 113th in America right now when it comes to yards rushing per game. Not great. Not great. But what's being missed? It doesn't really matter. At least not yet. It hasn't really caught up to Bama yet outside of that Florida State game. And that Florida State game, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't even count towards what I think of this current Alabama team. This game, when it comes to what is going to be required of Alabama on the offensive side, yes, you got to have something for that front seven to worry about. But I said it during our reaction to the LSU game for Alabama. There is a world now that Alabama has lived in several times where, hey, we can't really run the football. Well, hey, we got Jeremy Bernard, our receiver, is our leading rusher against South Carolina. It doesn't matter because guess what? We have number 15. This whole game is being played. We throw down the ace of spades that is Ty Simpson at the end of the game. That's how we win. And as we zoom out, too, not to make this a big picture segment, but as we zoom out, I don't know there's a perfect team in college football right now. You would argue Ohio State. You would argue Indiana. A&M has looked awesome, I hear you, but I don't think there's a bulletproof team in the country right now. And so when we have that pretense for this discussion around Alabama, it becomes less about who has what weakness and more so who has what strength. And the strength for Alabama being Ty Simpson and the way that he's played to this point in the year and the way that he's approaching this game against Oklahoma with the way they're going to bring pressure and the way they're going to put their guys on islands on the back ends, it's going to come down to Ty Simpson's processing. I don't really care if Alabama gets 30 yards rushing in this spot or not. I'd like to have more than that, ideally, if I'm Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb. But I think with the way that Ty Simpson, from what I've gathered now, is a top 1% when it comes to diagnosing defenses, he's going to see it. He's going to deliver. It's going to be big plays should his receivers have the ability to separate and then make the catch when they get there at Ryan Williams. All right, so I'm not really that worried about the ability for Alabama to run the football here. We can talk about that as we get into the college football playoff, and if they match up with an Ohio State or a team that can score with them, I guess we'll have that discussion. But I think as long as Ty Simpson's pulling the trigger and he's seen the way he's seen it, I'm not worried about if Alabama has a run game or not, and that's the way I feel about it in this game. Because Oklahoma, one of the best run-stopping defenses in college football. I'd like to have Ty Simpson have a little bit of run support behind him, but I don't think at the end of the day it'll be the make or break when it comes to this game. So that'll be awesome. I can't wait for it, dude. Oklahoma with their college football playoff hopes on the line and desperate John Mateer with a burn-the-boats game plan. And that matchup against Ty Simpson at quarterback, it's going to be a quarterback duel. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for it. I know you feel the exact same way. So I mentioned this at the open, but I want to do it again right now. I think in our industry, with the way that the college football digital media space is booming and everyone's got a podcast, everyone's got a show, it's easy to overthink the formatting of things. So we're not doing that right now. I just got a couple of takes for you I want to fire your way, and I want to hear what y'all think in the comment section. Or if you're listening via podcast, go ahead and leave a review or hit me on social media. However you want to get in touch with me, man, go ahead and do that. But I think first take for us here, I think Oregon has the potential to be the most college football playoff-ready team when they arrive in that field of 12. Okay? Now, here's my thing. I can tell you how strong you are by nature of the weight that you're repping. Okay? So, Oregon, look at what they're going to finish with here. You just beat Iowa. Okay? So, you did a little extra heavy lift there at Iowa, by the way. Now, you got Minnesota on a Friday night. This, to me, is the cardio for Oregon. Short week, got to turn it around. Just played a barn burner of a game against Iowa. Little cardio. Can we pick it up? We're a 24-point favorite. Can we pick it up? Have a quick turnaround. Not have last week impact this week. We're not worried about lifting legs last week, but go run hard this upcoming week against Minnesota. I think that's going to be a really good test for them. But here's where I think it gets really interesting for Oregon. You play USC. You play Washington to finish. USC, I would imagine, will be ranked when you play them, assuming they get past Iowa, which is a big assumption. And then you finished in a rivalry game against Washington. And Washington, they lost to Wisconsin, and your boy lost money on them. It is what it is. Washington's still a really good football team. Assuming they get a healthy offensive look, they're going to be a good opponent for you. So going back to this whole metaphor, Oregon is continuing to ramp up in the level of weight they're lifting here. So by the time they get to the college football playoff, I don't think Oregon's playing in the Big Ten title game, but they'll have lifted some pretty heavy weight by the time they get to that first playoff game. Like, I'm going to get to see what the firepower is, what the upper body looks like for Oregon when they go toe-to-toe with USC, and USC is a team that's going to score. I'm going to get a good chance to see what the mental fortitude is to play a rivalry game the last week of the regular season, how strong you are there to push through and find a way to ultimately lock up your college football playoff status. And if that's the case and they do miss the Big Ten title game, like it looks like they might right now, guess what? You get your bye out of the way. Get your little rest day in, get your chance to get your bearings about yourself, and then you're probably hosting a college football playoff game, y'all. So you got Oregon that is, I would say, for lack of a better phrasing, all the way warmed up, lifted some pretty good weight. Haven't maxed out yet, but lifted some pretty good weight getting into that whole stretch in the college football playoff. And your only loss is to a top 3 team in the country in Indiana. Oregon's pretty playoff ready by my measurements there. Like, I have very few reasons, honestly, to not like Oregon in a college football playoff setting, going back to even what happened last year. What happened last year, JD? They got the doors blown off by Ohio State. You liked them more because of that? Yes, I like that because Dan Lanning's a freaking psychopath, dude. If you don't believe me, go watch that clip of him post-game against Penn State where he looks like he's about to just get out of the freaking blocks in the Kentucky Derby. It's like a horse just ready to freaking roll. It's like, Dan, the game's over. Neither here nor there. Can't you just see, though, with this script, Oregon finishing the season against that competition, being warmed up, missing the Big Ten title game, hosting a college football playoff game in Autzen, which in and of itself would be phenomenal. Can't you just see a clip from the Oregon social team in their cinematic recap after a college football playoff win in the first round, Dan Lanning in the team room, showing the boys a little Nat Geo of great white sharks breaching. Boys, this is us. This is us. Started from the bottom here, up from the depths. The Ohio State lost last year. The Indiana lost this year, up from the depths. And then we breach at just the right time. We attack our prey and we kill. Dan Lanning, I think, will be verbatim what he says to his football team. Couldn't you just see that? Like, Dan Lanning doesn't waste anything. I've said it multiple times. I'll say it again. He doesn't waste anything. He doesn't waste losses. He doesn't waste bye weeks. He doesn't waste the failure of last year. I don't think he would waste last year's college football playoff experience. And I think they'd be better for it in this spot. So the thought that I settle on here, Oregon could kind of be what Notre Dame was last year in the playoff, in my estimation. First round host a game, super talented team, kind of under the radar. You talk about your Georgias and your Alabamas, you talk about Ohio States, and they all deserve that discussion. Do not get it twisted. But then Oregon rolls into the college football playoff with one of the most talented rosters, with one of the most psychopathic head coaches, and say, all right, 4-game season, let's roll. I think Oregon, by nature of how it ramps up, by nature of everything I just mentioned to you with the fact they got a Friday night game on there, going to test some cardio, going to test the upper body strength against USC metaphorically, going to trust the mental fortitude against Washington. They're not maxing out just yet, but they're continuing to rep good weight. So by the time they get to the college football playoff and play some better competition, and it's win or go home, I think they would be the most playoff ready, if not the most playoff dangerous team you could see that first round of the playoff. And with it being an Autzen potentially too, all bets are off. All bets are off when it comes to the Ducks there. Now, speaking of all bets being off, we're seeing a very different Georgia right now than we saw early on in the season. You know what I mean? Like, we were talking about this on our 12 questions with Cato, which if you haven't checked that out on the show, I would recommend doing that. Heck, if you want to check out all this content around this show, I'd make sure you subscribe to the On 3 YouTube channel. But the longer I sit with what I saw from Georgia in Starkville, I don't want to just dismiss that. I don't want to just dismiss that spot and how trappy it could have been, and what Mississippi State does well is historically over the course of the season what Georgia had struggled defending with the deep passing game. And the thought I had this morning getting ready for the show, we might need to just change how we evaluate Georgia over the course of a season. And we've hinted at this, but I think I'm ready to definitively have this be my framework when we eval Georgia every single year as long as Kirby Smart's the head coach out there. We need to go from college football logic with Georgia to seasonal logic with Georgia. Okay? College football logic says right around the midway point, like when you get to October, that's more or less what a team is. Very rarely is a team becoming something new in the month of November. It's usually maybe an evolution of what they had from that first 6 games or so, but midway through October, you kind of know who a team is. That's college football logic. Seasonal logic is it's one way in September, it's one way in October, it's one way in December. In September, when it's 80 degrees in Nashville, it's that's how it is. So when it comes time for November and it's darn near 20 degrees in the mornings, you're this is also just kind of how it is. So when Georgia in the month of September is struggling to start quickly and they're not really playing 4-quarter games and you got issues on defense, it's just how it is. But we get to November and Georgia scores, 35 points, more than 35 points, I believe it was, in the second and third quarter combined. And Georgia has a quick start in the first quarter. And Georgia's just running roughshod over Mississippi State, and the defense is holding one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC by the numbers in Blake Shapen to less than 200 yards passing. That's just how it is. So college football logic maybe applies to everyone else, but seasonal logic for Georgia is, I think, the right way to approach it. All right, now you say, well, JD, what's the reasoning behind this? Why can we apply seasonal logic to Kirby and the boys? Just what you said. It's Kirby. It's a Kirby Smart thing. I think he has the understanding and is continuing to evolve in this understanding with the way that college football is evolving in the expanded playoff and how long the season goes. College football has always been a marathon when it comes to reaching the ultimate goal of winning a national championship. I think Kirby Smart is just getting more and more comfortable with the course. It's not about September. Kirby knows that. Miami found that out the hard way now, several years in a row. Florida State found that out the hard way. They were the stories of September, weren't they? Hey, Florida State, they're a top 10 team. Miami, they're going to be a playoff team this year. You get to November, what happens? They run out of gas. What's happening with Georgia right now, though? They're peaking and looking like they're going to play their best football here in the months of November, and ideally for Kirby and co, December and into January. That's just what they do. That's just how it is, just who they are. I think it's with how they practice. I think it's with how they train. I think it goes all the way back to summer 1 and summer 2 and how they even structure those lifting plans. They are planning to play football at their highest level in these months where the most important games are happening. It's a Kirby Smart thing. It is a foresight thing. And I don't think you can overstate that. So looking at this Georgia team, man, why does this year feel different than last year? Because I think you feel it too. Seeing that Georgia team do what they did to Mississippi State, seeing them come back in the second half against Ole Miss and the way that they came back against Tennessee, this Georgia team just feels different. I like this Georgia team a lot more this year than last year. And last year was kind of a similar path, right? Get to November after losing to Bama and Ole Miss, and you still win the SEC when it's a one-game season in Atlanta, right? That's great, but this year's team feels different. There's 2 reasons why I like this Georgia team more than last year's Georgia team. The first is I love who Georgia tells me they are consistently. I love the constants with Georgia. Because the defense, been a little bit here and there, a little bit touch and go. Haven't really played a bunch of 4-quarter games, have the Dogs, when it comes to bringing their best. But you know what they are? They're a good offensive football team. Last year in the college football playoff, there were 11 games played. 7 of those 11 games, the winning team scored over 30. It might just come down to offense. It might come down to Gunnar Stockton. It might come down to Mike Bobo. It might come down to that backfield, that offensive line. It might just come down to the offensive pieces. And as much as you worry a little bit about the consistency on defense and the secondary and all those things, Georgia consistently is scoring points. Top 25 in the country in points per game. Over 30. That's who Georgia is. So that's the first reason I like them better. Because last year you had Carson Beck tied for the conference lead in picks and led the country in drops. And it wasn't dependable. It wasn't. And you ultimately saw that in the college football playoff game you lost to Notre Dame, where you scored 10 points. Now, the second thing I like about Georgia, as to why I like them more this year than last year, this team likes each other. I don't know if they didn't like each other last year, but it feels more vintage Georgia this year. And I know in the modern era we're talking about, well, you portal guys in here, and it's about NIL, and it's about me and mine, and culture is dead in college football. Really? I don't think so. I think when it comes to a 4-quarter game, you got to have good team chemistry. You got to like each other. Your offensive line better like your quarterback on 4th and 1. We got a quarterback sneak dialed up to give a little bit extra force to push him through to get that first down and put the game on ice. You better like each other. And so I think Georgia overall, it's a Gunnar Stockton thing. It's a Kirby Smart thing. It's a leadership in that locker room thing to where I think they've cultivated a certain environment of we play for each other. And to be real now, everything I said about modern college football and the portal and NIL, that's real. So I think with that being dialed down across the rest of college football and this Georgia team still seemingly having that dialed up with how they operate, it's a differentiating factor, man. It was a differentiating factor before. It's even more so now with seeing less, I say, elite cultures across the board here in the college football landscape. So Georgia, this might just be who they are right now, man. I understand there's some things across the last couple of months where you're like, I don't love this about Georgia. I don't love that about Georgia. Odds are they're going to continue fixing it and be better in the month of November. And we just got to change how we evaluate Georgia week in and week out, and quite frankly, month in and month out. College football logic is sound for the most part, but Georgia is the exception to that logic. They're going to play their best ball when it matters most, and you're seeing that happen right now as they are hurtling towards a college football playoff berth. And if Georgia has their way, maybe, just maybe, Kirby and the boys backdoor their way to Atlanta and find themselves playing for the conference title yet again. We'll keep a pulse on that, but Georgia, this is just kind of who they are right now as far as I'm concerned. Now, another take for you, man. I love how Ohio State is approaching this season. And maybe a better way to say that is I love the race plan Ohio State has right now over the course of this season. Last year's team was elite, totally elite. Won the national championship. There's nothing negative you could say about what Ohio State did last year, short of that Michigan loss. But that's the thing, right? Wasn't the flight pattern a little bit, the race plan, it's a little bit wonky? It felt to me like Ohio State maybe peaked a little bit too early over the regular season and then kind of had to get the emotional juice back after the Michigan loss and going to tear in the playoff. Again, you don't apologize for winning a national championship, but I compare last year's flight pattern and this year's flight pattern, this race plan for Ohio State. I like this year's race plan much more. I think it's much more ideal. We'll unpack it right now. Before we do that, though, our Ohio State audience has been phenomenal, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. But hey, Roback is partnering with the show, bringing you the show. They're delivering heat, not just in the sense that they're sponsoring the show. Y'all, the game day collection at Roback is hot fire. If I was an Ohio State alum, I would have purchased this already. They got a little red script Ohio hoodie that is absolutely elite, along with a number of other elite items over at Roback.com. Some Ohio State stuff there. Also, if you don't want to rock Ohio State, you just want to rock something generic, Roback got you covered there too. They are changing the comfortable active wear game, in my estimation. Also, they are leading the charge on the NIL front. So if you want to get into some comfortable / stylish / Ohio State branded gear with Roback, here's the deal. Save you some money. Use code JD, no periods, just those 2 letters. Use code JD on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all performance polos, the Script Ohio hoodie if they still have it there, shorts, and more with code JD at Roback.com. So Ohio State's race plan over the course of this year has been very similar to how you would run a 100-meter dash. You get out of the blocks in the 100, you are driving for that first phase, trying to generate as much force as possible, get yourself out of the blocks, have some speed about yourself, get this thing off the ground is your approach for that first, call it 30-ish meters, all right? So those first 6 games for Ohio State, that's exactly what they did. Just win, because guess what? We got to play Texas game 1, going to play at Washington, going to play at Illinois. We got to find a way to generate force and just drive. Grit your teeth and drive. Awesome. They did that. Then the phase they're in right now, these next 5 games for Ohio State since those first 6, has been the float phase. The next phase of the 100-meter is you drive, and then you're just smooth, high knees, trying to touch the ground as little as possible. You are just floating. That's what Ohio State's doing right now. Wisconsin, 34-0. Thanks for playing. Penn State, didn't think you'd be a part of this float phase, but glad to have you here, 38-14. At Purdue, Carnell Tate, chill out, 34-10. We'll go ahead and handle business. UCLA, Rutgers, all the float phase here. And Jake Butt, I mentioned this already, but he made a great point over on the Big Ten Network. He's tracking the snap counts as they won Jake Butt, okay? And when Ohio State gets to the end of the season, the way that Ryan Day has managed some of these blowouts, managed this float phase, the snap counts will add up to Ohio State ultimately having played like less games than the opponents they're playing. They will have added up to one less game via the snap counts than their competition. Y'all, that is insane stuff. That is mad scientist stuff from Ryan Day. So Ohio State maximizing the float phase, getting ready to kick. That last, call it 20 meters of the 100-meter dash, you are just whatever it takes. Full throttle, at your fastest. You've driven, you've floated, and now it's all speed through the finish, baby. And we're seeing that from Ohio State. It's not a coincidence. These last 3 games, Julian Sayan's gone for 393, over 300, over 303. He's cooking right now. Jeremiah Smith, 9 for 97, 6 for $123, 10 for 137 his last 3 games. Not a coincidence. Bo Jackson, looking like your RB1 right now. He's had the most carries these last 2 games since September. It's not a coincidence they're starting to ramp it up a little bit here for the game against Michigan at the end of the regular season, for the Big Ten title game, looking like it's going to be against Indiana, college football playoff. They're preparing to kick here. And I said this in our reaction to the Purdue game around Ohio State, but I want to say it again. Ryan Day, and the fact that he knows the course to get to a national championship in the 12-team playoff, you cannot overstate the importance of it. Because guess what? Everyone else outside of Ryan Day and Marcus Freeman, they are guessing at what they think they need to do with their team, how they should position them, the load they should put on them during practice and workouts. They're all just kind of guessing at what they need to do to get to the national championship. Ryan Day's not guessing. Ryan Day's seen it. He's coached it. He's been a part of it. Ryan Day knows the course. And so the race plan you're seeing here from Ohio State, it's not one based in hypothetical and principle. It's based in, no, we've been here before. Here's what it takes. Here's what I learned. Let's go. And again, only one other coach in the country knows this kind of race, and it's Marcus Freeman. And they're kind of in drive phase, I think, all the way up into and through the college football playoff, much like last year with the situation they find themselves in. So the Ohio State race plan, to put it simply, it is designed to, and looking like it's going to position them to right now, have them playing their best football with their most important games. Like, I even personally feel like the defense might be saving a little bit. Like, they've been awesome so far. They've been exotic. They've been an NFL defense with Matt Patricia calling the show. Hand up, your boy seems to be eating crow on that whole take before the year on what I thought Matt Patricia would be. But, like, I'm not throwing my best stuff out there against Wisconsin. I'm not throwing my fastball against Purdue, UCLA. Even though I'm calling plays technically for UCLA in that spot with me and Jerry Neuheisel being doppelgangers, I'm not bringing my best stuff against them. I'm saving all the most complex looks, all of our heaters. We're saving those for Michigan, for the playoff and things of that nature. So Ohio State, I love the race plan. It is a long-term vision here by Ryan Day. He is beginning with the end in mind. They're executing at a high level. Drive phase completed to perfection. Float phase looking nice, and I cannot wait to watch Ohio State kick here down the stretch because I have to believe they will be running hot when it's time to run hot for the good folks out there in Columbus, Ohio. Now, here's a take that's not specific to the college football playoff, but gosh, if you're an Auburn fan, you're hoping you're in this situation in a couple of years, heck, next year. But I want to say this out loud. Whoever gets the Auburn job, you can win right now. Of all the vacancies in college football, I don't know if Auburn's the best job, just point blank, period. You could have a conversation about what LSU is and Florida is. But in terms of like most ready to win right now, for me, it's Auburn. And I understand that there's some thoughts around, the questions around who's going to hit the portal and how much do you lose from this roster. We'll worry about that when it gets here. But, man, if I'm an Auburn fan, I am so frustrated watching us look awesome against Vanderbilt on the offensive side of the football. You're seeing Cam Coleman out there just like one hand and stuff. Cato and I were texting during that game. Cato goes, Bionicle watch Cam Coleman doing crazy things on Eric Singleton actually being utilized. Refreshing, isn't it? That's so frustrating if you're an Auburn fan because you're like, Hugh Freeze, what were we doing for these last, few months, last few years, quite frankly, on the Plains? What are we doing? I'm seeing those guys on our roster, and both those guys in Cam Coleman and Singleton, plus those two top 10 recruiting classes we have on campus right now, they could be back next year. What are we doing? This was always possible. It was always possible for Auburn. And so whoever the next head coach is going to be right there, if you can retain some of this talent, you got a shot. Like the LSU job is awesome. Do not get it twisted. But winning next year, can you fix that offensive line to the tune of being an SEC champion? Florida, Are we going to be in a spot where we have a quarterback next year? Because DJ Lagway, I don't even know if he's going to start this upcoming weekend. And maybe Tramel Jones is awesome, but that's a big question mark. For Auburn, you got Deuce Knight on campus. 5-star guy. And yeah, they'll probably have some offensive line pieces to replace as well. But if I have the potential to bring back, again, Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton, along with those 2 top 10 recruiting classes, and I get to potentially keep DJ Durkin on staff, and that's your first move if you show up there at Auburn and you're a head coach and you're bringing in different pieces on your staff. No, you keep DJ Durkin as your DC. He's proven as much. You can win right now if you're Auburn. Don't have to wait. Don't have to rebuild. You have all that you need to win right now. And so how that positions you if you're an Auburn fan or you're a decision maker at Auburn, I don't think you're waiting around for one of these coaches that's going to be in the college football playoff. I was never really of the thought that Lane Kiffin would be the guy at Auburn to begin with, but like all the names that are out there that could potentially be in the playoff, sorry, we gotta act now, Auburn. There's a great quote by General Patton. Says, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week. I'll take the good plan today. I'll take the head coach that'll be good enough today to retain this roster, to retain the right pieces on the staff, because all of those things are good enough to win tomorrow if you're Auburn. So you go hire your head coach ASAP. And again, I think it's John Summerall. I keep on saying this. I'll say it until we're wrong. Everything about John Summerall at Auburn to me makes sense because what I just said. The pieces of paper with that roster is awesome. It's awesome. You bring it to life, though, with a head coach that majors in personality, majors in culture, majors in toughness, all the things that's getting Auburn beat in the fourth quarter, beat in the second half against Kentucky, against Vanderbilt. You bring that in to your building, I think you're in good shape if you're Auburn. So that'd be the move I would make, and it looks like, and I want to speak to authoritatively, it looks like John Summerall and Tulane may not be in the college football playoff. So you go hire someone tomorrow that's going to be on staff for you, be the head coach for you, and you get that thing humming, and next year can be whatever you want it to be if you're Auburn, all right? Now, Auburn, you still got a couple more games left, playing Mercer, and you're finishing the year in the Iron Bowl in Jordan-Hare. Alabama comes to town. If you want to be at that game, the best way to do that is with Game Time, all right? Game Time, fast, easy, safe, effective, affordable, attractive, another adjective. It's the best way to buy tickets, all right, is what I'm trying to tell you. So, using Game Time, you can see the view from your seat in Jordan-Hare before you buy, so you're not seeing a ticket. You're like, oh, this looks awesome. This is a low price. Sweet. I'm going to go ahead and buy this. Then you get to the seat, and you're like, hang on. I'm sitting behind a freaking metal pole in the stadium. I'm sitting behind the Jumbotron. What is going on? I wish I had bought with Game Time. That way, I would know that I could see the view from my seat before I purchased the ticket, and I'm not in this position. So, hear me clearly. Download the Game Time app today to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Create an account. Use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account. Use code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So I want to finish the show today talking about one of the just more wild quotes I've heard over the course of this week in college football. Honestly, maybe this season in college football. We've had some wild sound bites. But Pitt welcomes Notre Dame to town this weekend. College game day in attendance. Pitt fighting for their college football playoff lives in the ACC. Notre Dame fighting for their college football playoff lives, period. And someone asked Pat Narduzzi, head coach of Pitt, hey, Coach, is this a must-win? And his answer I thought was absolutely hilarious. Go ahead and take a listen.
Do you feel like this is a must-win for this team when it comes to something?
Absolutely not. It is not an ACC game. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not an ACC game. I gladly get beat 103 or 110 to 10 in that game. They can put 100 up on us as long as we win the next two after that. But again, our focus is on Notre Dame and getting as many wins as we can.
Okay, I get where he was going there. I understand the thought where they go, is this a must-win game, Coach? He goes, absolutely not. You're like, okay, heck yeah. Like, we don't worry about our opponent. We don't worry about the spot. No game's a must-win game for us. We just play our game. We're Pitt. I like that. No pressure, low stakes. We go ball, Coach. I'm with you. But then he keeps talking, and he goes, they could score 110 on us. They can hang 100 on us. And you're like, whoa, hang on, what? Why can't we score a little bit more? Why do they got to score 100 on our defense, Coach? That would be a bad thing. And he really almost went too far on the idea. Not almost. He did go too far on the idea of we don't have to win this football game. But what he's saying is, okay, it's not an ACC game. We're not making the college football playoff as an at-large bid. We got Georgia Tech and Miami. As long as we win those next two, we play for the conference title, controlling our own destiny. We win the conference. We're in the college football playoff. That's what I care about. But he just went way overkill on this. And it's one of those things where even if you think that, maybe don't say it at a press conference. Don't say it out loud because guess what? We're all listening. More importantly, your players are listening. I'm Mason Heichel listening to Pat Narduzzi say we could lose by 100. I'm like, hang on a second. We're only getting 10 points against Notre Dame, coach? I didn't sign up for that. I did not sign up for that. That might be one of those things if you're Coach Narduzzi, you just like think internally. And if you got to say it out loud, you say it behind closed doors in your own bedroom when you and your wife are turning out the lights to go to bed, getting ready for Notre Dame that upcoming weekend. Just kind of whisper, we could lose by 100 of these guys, and I wouldn't care because we could still make the college football freaking playoff. But this is one of those things that I would maybe just have an inside voice thought and not put it out at the press conference. Again, I get where he's coming from. I love the idea of house money, not a must-win for us, must-win for them, no pressure for us. But there's such a thing as coming on too strong. And you could tell, too, at the end, kind of tried to reel it in a little bit, Cato. He's like, well, but actually, no, like our focus is on Notre Dame and winning as many games as possible. He kind of realized that saying we are going to get beat by 100 and he wouldn't care wasn't probably the move there. Cato, am I crazy? I thought this was, one, a hilarious soundbite, and two, I get where he's coming from, but three, maybe just don't say that part out loud going into a massive game with College Game Day coming to town.
Yeah, this is hilarious, man. The fact that she like barely finished asking the question, he's like, absolutely not. Like, I understand. I think so. I've been on teams where, and I think this is many teams and most teams in the country, the head coach is very want to know every week, like win week in and week out. But then preseason, the goal is to win your conference title game because that's like the only thing you can control.
Sure.
Like you can lose all your non-conference games. It gives you hope if you lose any of those games. And you can still in the short term, week in and week out in conference play, win the next one, win your conference games and set yourself up to play in the conference title game. Because he said they could put 100 up on us if that means we win the next two games. Like that's what he's saying. Because he's trying to stress the importance of them achieving their goal of playing in the ACC title game and winning the ACC title game. But just he came off the top rope way too hard with the absolutely not. I think like just the sentence like I'd gladly get beat by 100 or like he was just a little. I think he got a little too excited. Like I think he had good intentions, but he said that absolutely not. He started feeling like a stand-up comedian. He started cracking a little bit too many jokes, I think, to the point where it took away from the game they have ahead of him. But man, I thought this was so funny. I've watched it like several times. I think it's hilarious.
It's like an I think you should leave skit. It's like Tim Robinson, like, I absolutely not even close to a must-win for us. We could get beat by 100. I wouldn't care. We could get beat by
So
300.
funny.
I wouldn't care.
Gladly is the funniest.
Gladly
quote.
get beat by them.
I would gladly. I'm like, bro, you can't say that.
But then I think he realized, because he starts to go, but our focus is on Notre Dame and winning as many games as we can. It's like, well, it just sounds like actually as many games as you can, but if you had to pick one to lose and how much to lose by, you'd be okay with getting beat by 100 this weekend with game day in town. Not a great vibe setter for a massive game for Pitt, dude. Nationally, at least.
Pat's been in the game for a long time, and I think if they do get absolutely blown out, I've got my eye on them the next 2 weeks, man. I think if they get blown out by Notre Dame, give me Pitt in the conference title game. Because
Okay,
he made a deal.
Let's
He made a
go.
deal with the powers that be. He goes over to Marcus Freeman pregame. Hey man, like go nuts. You heard what I said earlier this week, right? I'll gladly take this L.
Get Jeremiah Love the Heisman.
Yeah. They're gonna have their backups in, and then next 2 weeks, whatever deal he made with the powers that be, they'll roll and be in the ACC title game. So we'll see. But
So funny,
such a
dude.
funny soundbite, man. You can't get enough of Pat. Hopefully we get him on College Game Day on this set, and maybe he can clarify some of this. But yeah, I get what he was trying to do, just only because of really being in a locker room. Like I get that coaches they want to stress conference games so much. This is a ring game. These are they try to put so much emphasis on that, but I think he devalued this game like too much in attempt to do that, because obviously you want to play in the conference title game. Obviously, I think right now it looks like the ACC rep will be just a one-team rep from that conference, whoever wins the conference title game. But you don't have to say it like that, Coach. You don't have to get 100 put on your head just to prove your point.
And you know who's going to just not let him off the hook when you bring up the game day stuff? Pat McAfee.
No.
Because McAfee, in addition to just being like about that life when it comes to facing those kind of stories head on with a coach on the set, if he ends up being on the set, McAfee's a West Virginia alum.
He's gonna let him know.
Rival of Pitt.
Backyard
Brawl. He's like, no, I'm not letting you off the hook on that one. Lose by 100 today, Coach? Okay. All right. Like, we'll see. We'll see.
We got to hit our connections up at BetMGM and see if the line moved at all based on Narduzzi's comments, because, I mean, I'm willing to tease that line up to not 100, but, up a little bit from the 10.5 that it opened up at. If Pat Narduzzi is already looking ahead, I mean, come on. It's such an opposite mindset from Notre Dame as well. Like Notre Dame would gladly put up 100 because they need this. Like, this is the only ranked team they're probably going to play the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And they're fighting every other 10-2 team off. Like, other than Texas and Oklahoma losing, the best thing that could happen for them is if they do beat Pitt by 100. So the coaches are probably on way different time here, like way different time. And that concerns me for the spread.
If you flipped the question on Marcus Freeman, is it a must win? He'd be like, 1, yes. Okay. 2, we're going to try to win by 100. We're going to try to win by 100. So buckle up, boys. Let's go get this one. I can't wait, because there's going to be more to this story. I can't wait to get like the next interview opportunity from Pat Narduzzi. Yeah. It's going to just be, hey guys, about that whole lose by 100 thing, I'm actually not that down for that anymore. Yeah. Did some soul searching. We're going to try to win the game.
Yeah, clear the air when you can, Pat, because I think that'd be helpful for the morale of your team as they go up against a pretty talented squad that wouldn't hesitate to put up 100 on you, I think, if they could. Just ask Arkansas and a couple other teams that got it, like Navy as well.
And I picked Pitt to cover before I saw that conversation, but maybe that changes the flow of things a little bit. Because I think Pitt's going to move the football. I like Mason Heinschel. I like the weapons. It'll be fun, though. It'll be fun. If nothing else, it'll be a fun thing to track. It's just hilarious this made our show. We're putting the show together. We're like, you want to throw the Narduzzi quote in there? Or the Narduzzi quote, rather, in there? Wild times.
It was a must, for sure. It was a must.
Cato, good stuff as always, brother. Good stuff. And we appreciate y'all making the show what it is, as we always say. If you haven't yet subscribed via podcast feed, go ahead and do that. If you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, also do that. College football year-round. The greatest time of the year. Things are ramping up right now as the weather gets colder. We appreciate y'all. Cato Smith for the ones and the twos. Myself, JD PicKell. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.